Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hairy Muppet, and welcome to another daily Masters cast. And as you can see by the length of the video, this is going to be a pretty epic one. So let's start off and introduce our players. Up the top right hand side of the map, it is going to be our red Terran player, TvZ. And down the bottom left side of the map, it is going to be our blue Zerg player, Jaedong. And once again, we are doing DreamHack Valencia, round of 32, I think it still is. There's just so many good games from there. We're starting to run out of games though, but luckily I've got the WCS Season 2 and Season 1 replays, so God knows there is going to be probably hundreds of master level replays that I can have a go at. And yeah, even WCS, I mean, I'll probably concentrate on Season 2, but Season 1, I didn't get a chance to cast that because when it came out there were no replays available, not that I can find, so it's probably a bit too late for me to cast the entire tournament from the round of 8 up. But you know what, it's probably not too late for me to cast those individual replays as daily masters, because I need a lot of replays for daily masters. So definitely we're going to be chucking those on whichever way we can, but right now, we're going to be concentrating on Jaedong and the STC, and of course we know that Jaedong is an awesome player, consistently getting into the very top levels of tournaments, into the semi-finals and grand finals. The STC, not so much. We've never really seen him in a grand final scenario, as far as I can tell. But he has been getting into the round of 8s. He's got into a couple of quarterfinals maybe. So I mean, based purely on tournament performance, you would probably say, well, I'm going with Jaedong. But I mean, I just jumped up a whatchamacallit, where is it? I think it was Stardust and Tefel, it might have been, and man, oh man, I thought Stardust was definitely a certainty to win that, because Stardust is just like, whoa, in tons of tournaments, constantly getting up the top. And Tefel, I don't know, I've never really heard of him too much before, but Tefel came out and kicked Stardust's ass, and so you never can tell who's going to win these Masters level games. It's not just a matter of fact like this person has done this and they've done that and they've done this, and that means they're better, and that means they're going to win this game against this person. I mean, Starcraft, it's a lot of skill, but it's also a lot of luck. I mean, you can't scout the opponent 24/7, so it does come down to a lot of luck. Like, you try a plan out, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, and it depends a lot on what plan the opponent went for. And unless you know exactly what your opponent is doing is in every second of the game, you are not going to be able to consistently get the perfect counter for your opponent's play. The best you can do is scout as often as you can, and as soon as you realize what your opponent's play is, you scramble as fast as you can. But with the very, very best of players, they do really awesome macro, and even if you do counter them sometimes, it's just impossible to really get off this. Now, I am thinking this in the mid game, I'm thinking that STC probably has a bit of an advantage just because of this map. I mean, the expansion, his second expansion, very easy to bunker up. This gap is relatively small, and he can put tanks on the high ground if he really wants to, hold this off nicely, but it's not going to favour Jaedong at all, because he needs to get a third base. This base is wide open. That is so wide open, it's not even funny. And this base is extremely wide open as well. So getting a third and holding it is going to be very hard. And that's definitely that's going to backfire on the STC in the mid to late game, because he's going to need to get a third, and it's going to be equally hard for him to hold this on as well. I mean, by the mid to late game, Jaedong will have 3 here and then 4 there, and he'll have such an awesome creep spread that it's not going to matter if these bases are a little bit exposed, because he should be able to react in time. But yes, the STC will have a hard time, but that's the mid to late game. I'm talking about the mid-game. I'm talking about the 10 to 15 minute portion of the game. That is when the STC is going to have an opportunity to hit this base really, really hard. And Jaedong he's not going to be the map is not on his side in defending that base. I mean, the STC can hit it from all different directions and do so much damage to it. He's actually trying here. The workers go in a little bit of a funky direction. Oh, and they're getting into a huge ball here. The Hellions starting to get killed though. And yeah, it looks like they only got about 4 or 5 workers there, which not quite cost effective from losing 4 Hellions. Not quite, but at least he's putting some pressure on Jaedong, forcing him to pull all these queens back. So that's going to be some spawn lava time lost as well. So yes, it's still, you know, if you count the little things, then maybe STC is going to be happy with that. But yeah, my upper lip is getting very, very dry again. I have to take a drink, see if that helps. Unsurprisingly, the forces of gravity keeping the drink away from my upper lip. So yeah, it did not work all that well, but yeah, look at this. Actually, STC going for a very, very aggressive third base. And I say it's aggressive because this is way out in the open. Really, really far out in the open. If you had another third base like tucked off here, off in the corner, I would say third base at 9 minutes for the Terran player, fair enough. But this very open, very exposed, and siege tanks or no siege tanks, if he decides to roll banelings in from the south side, the Terran player is completely screwed. He really needs like a, whatchamacallit tower. One of the thingamy-bob towers that show the vision of units and stuff like that. I can't remember what the damn thing's called, but he definitely needs one of them. Can I click the build? Sensor tower, that's it. How did I manage to get that selected? That's interesting. Build? I'm not sure that's supposed to happen. But yeah, we've got a fusion core we can build there, so that's pretty sweet. But yeah, sensor tower. Definitely a sensor tower down around this area, because he's very, very open to attacks from the south side here. He needs to see them coming. He's got a bit more help on the west side, but another sensor tower up there definitely would not help. But yeah, Ling run by is going to be an absolute pain in the ass, so a sensor tower would do very nice there. Meanwhile, the Zerg player just matching the Terran player, expansion for expansion. And when I say matching, of course, the Zerg player is expected to be 1 ahead. So when I say matching, I mean 1 ahead. So there we go. He's actually a little bit behind if you look at it like that, but he is going for Muta Ling by the looks of it. Man, he's going nuts on the upgrades. He's got 2-2 already at the 11-minute mark. That's fairly quick. The STC has got 2-2 going as well. So maybe it's not that quick. Maybe both players just going really, really nuts. But I feel like that is still fairly quick. And the Baneling's coming in, doing a pretty good job. The STC doing a great job at stim running. He'd like to have those Banelings die while taking a minimum amount of Marines. So you can see how he constantly split off. Left 1 Marine behind, left 2 Marines behind. And the Banelings on auto attack will use themselves up against the Marines. And that is gas that's being used up when the Banelings go down. So if the Marines go down, there's no gas being lost. And gas, of course, is the most important resource. But that was not good. Lost 2 Banelings and took out like 5 Marines. So definitely not cost effective for the Terran player there. He's got a bunch more Marines here, and there's nothing he would like more than to hit this hatchery. But the Widow Mines are on cooldown right now, and these Marines are going to see what Zerg Macro can do right now. They are all going to die. The dropships managing to speed away, but speed only lasts so long. I think they are going to... Oh no, speed's run out, speed's run out. He's getting some reinforcing Marines in, and just going to be able to save that dropship. But the Ling's coming in as well to help out, and having to scoop them up in a dropship, another boost, and they are going to go out of there. And look at this. I don't know if this is supposed to be a gate, but it feels like a gate right there to try and hold off that south passage. Meanwhile, more reinforcing Marines going to be holding this off. The Muta's not really taking too many hits, mainly just providing the support, and the Lings down on the ground are taking quite a beating. But Jaedong really hasn't pushed in for a ton of Banelings yet. He knows that off the creep, Banelings are not going to be as efficient as they could. In fact, they're probably just going to be mainly useless, because STC could just stim run, stim run, stim run, and slowly whittle the banelings down. Even without siege tank support, he can do that. So yeah, it's not going to work, but once STC starts engaging on creep, the banelings are just going to cream his entire force. And there he goes, not quite ready. Banelings coming in. Took out a ton over there. A few Marines are surviving though, and a few more banelings down here though, and they're going to get flanked on the side. And yeah, really great job. The STC is holding off with reinforcements, but that's not going to be enough to actually put him in there and take this hatchery out. So really great job with Jaedong. Actually, well, getting the scouting out first, really nice job. And the mutas coming in here, and the Lings constantly surrounding them, and STC really on the edge of his seat to try and hold off this force. But look at this, man, they're just going absolutely nuts, and the muta force that Jaedong has managed to scare out of his base is just absolutely crazy. Oh, but look at the Widow Mine hit. Widow Mine hit all of the mutas, perfectly clumped up, and that is going to be it for Jaedong. It looked like he had a seriously dangerous attack with that one Widow Mine hit. I feel like STC has just turned it around, and yeah, those mutas are not going to want to go in anytime soon. There's still quite a decent amount of them left. I feel like half of these are reinforcements though, but just one Widow Mine hit and it turned the entire tide of the battle. They could have perhaps taken out an expansion because they were just overwhelming the Terran forces, completely overwhelming them, but very nice that Widow Mine hit. And STC going to turn right around and push in, and he's setting up Widow Mines all over the place. A nice force here, and he's just going to stim and run back. The Widow Mine's not going for the mutas, unfortunate. If he had microed them a little bit more, he could have hit the mutas, but it's very hard to do that sort of stuff. You can't stop them from attacking Lings when they get in really close. So if the Lings come in first, the Widow Mines are going to attack them. The only thing you can do is lift them out of the ground, and then of course they're going to be completely useless. But mutas, really large pack of mutas out here, and the Marines getting hit so badly by the Lings, there's just nothing left to take the mutas out. Constant Marine reinforcements are starting to come out, and there's no more Lings to really harass this Marine crowd, and the mutas are starting to take a heavy amount of damage here, and the Ling reinforcements are not taking care of the Marines as they should, and the mutas are forced to get out of there. Another group of mutas over there, but they're going to get chased away fairly easily. And look at all these Widow Mines. 1 kill there, 0 kills there, 15 kills on this Widow Mine. So yeah, the Widow Mine's definitely doing a ton of stuff in here, and you don't really see the Widow Mine killing anything in a major battle. All I could see there was Marines hitting stuff all over the place, but if you look at the kill counts, man, Widow Mines definitely do a lot of damage. In fact, I'd say they do more than Marines when you've got these sort of numbers. They're just so insane. And speaking of insane, STC, man, currently on 5 bases, currently on 70 workers. Jaedong, in classic Zerg style, is keeping ahead of the Terran player, but only just. I feel like Jaedong is just like trying to pull ahead, and it's just not working. Just STC is staying on his back, and 4 bases for a Terran player at the 20-minute mark is quite impressive. He actually had this 4th base at like the 15-minute mark, so really impressive. But STC is going to be put to the challenge right now, because we do have ultralisk coming out, and they are going to have maxed out upgrades. This is actually Zergling attack speed, man. We barely ever see this, but a bunch of Lings coming out with full upgrades. Oh, Widow Mine hitting the ultralisk, not the best of hits, but STC really needs to start pumping the Marauders numbers out. Widow Mines are going to help, but he needs the Marauders, and he's currently pumping out 3 at a time, so that's a good start. Maybe a little bit more, because you've got to remember that he probably needs like 2 or 3 Marauders per ultralisk to really provide an efficient trade. And yeah, oh, they're running out of afterburners. This is not good. It's not good at all. Oh no, and they all get taken out. Very unfortunate for a Terran player, but he was in a very tight spot there. And yeah, so anyway, Mutaling Ultra for Jaedong. Very interesting. tactic, but I guess the mutiling by itself just wasn't cutting it against the Widow Mines. So he needed something to counter against the Widow Mines, and I guess Ultras are it. If he can push the Ultras in before anything else, trigger off the Widow Mines, he is going to be in a good position because the Lings and the Mutas will be free to do the damage that they were being stopped from doing before by the Widow Mines. And there we go. Let's see the Widow Mines mainly hitting the Ultras. So Jaedong's plan is working so far. But still, STC is getting a very, very decent amount of Marauders out. And he's got 3 upgrades. But his dropship count is not looking good at all, man. These guys need the support from the dropships. They are a hair away from just getting completely demolished. And he lost like 4 dropships in the past 2 minutes. So he is really reeling from that. And he needs to get the dropships out ASAP. Oh, look at the Banelings coming in, and oh god, these guys are going to run to 1 hit. Oh, look at all these guys on very, very low health, man. They're so close to dying, but they can just repair each other like good buddies they are, and they should repair each other at some point. But look at this, Widow Mines all over the place, but unlike playing against most Zerg players, where they might not, you know, see these guys, Jaedong has been very, very active in taking his overseers all over the place, consistently spotting the Widow Mines and taking them out when he needs to. Here we go, a couple of drop shifts, but he's got to make sure they do not die. There we go, getting him in a good position. The Mutas are going to snipe him out though, and drop ships are starting to become more and more important as he wants to keep his army alive, because he's doing a great job of keeping his army alive right now. But unfortunately, they just get lower and lower on health as they stim, because you consistently have to stim your army to get away from Banelings to do the attack damage needed to take out those Ultras. I mean, a Marauder with stim is 1,000,000 times better than a Marauder without stim, and especially when you got 5 or 6 Ultras in your face, you need to have the stim. And if you stim too many times and you don't have heals, your Marauder's eventually going to die, and these guys are starting to get peeled back up again. This medevac's kind of in the wrong spot, and they're starting to look good again, but a minute ago they were looking quite bad. They were looking quite all over the place, but now they're in a good position, and a fungal going down on the Marauders. This is exactly what Jaedong needs, and suddenly the mobility of this Triple M army, which was doing STC so well, has just been thrown out the window. The fungal growth, who cares about the damage? It's the loss of mobility. And when you are facing off against 10 Ultras, stim and run is the only thing that's going to keep you alive. If you cannot stim and run, you are going to die. And we saw 3/4 of STC's units just completely fall apart in that one attack. Fungal, so good, man. Jaedong, you are such a master at this game. But he's still on equal bases, he's still on equal footing. STC still has 1 more worker than Jaedong has. He's going to catch up in a sec, but man, oh man, oh man. I would say if it wasn't for these fungals, that STC would just be able to macro himself into a win here, because he's got the counter for the ultralisk, but if the fungal is just taking him for a left-hand turn, and with all this other stuff going on, I do not know if he can make it work right now. He's gone totally Marauder heavy, but the Mutas are coming back. This is Mutas 2, the sequel to the Mutas, Death from Above, and suddenly the STC finds himself in desperate need of Marines once again. But of course Marines get owned by the Ultras. So it's a game of rock, paper, scissors at the moment, and if you've got the rock, then you're going to bash your opponent's skull out. If they don't have I don't know, whatever it is that counters the rock. I think it's the paper. Yes, the paper or something like that. I don't know. This just went down the toilet completely. But anyway, moving on. STC now needs to get a sizable amount of Marauders and Marines. And you start to get a ton more Marines. You're still getting Marauders though. Still getting a ton of them. And he's actually got quite a lot of army. Jaedong starting to fall behind a little bit, just a little bit. I think that's another reason he got the Infestors. It's because he's just got so much gas. Look at these Lings, man. These guys aren't even doing anything. I feel like they should have been, but not. I thought that would have been really, really bad, but Little force over there. Looks like they were going to go and intercept. A major engagement over there. I am sorry I missed that, but STC managing to survive, and Jaedong does not want his infestors to get sniped off, but it looks like it may happen. Fungal's taking them down there. Those guys got to get out of here. Baneling's in there, just blew everything up. And what do we got in here? A bunch of medevacs coming down. Look at the defenses on this base. They're just all over the place. Bunch of mutas coming out there. The muta's still a decisive part of this battle so late in the game. And another drop coming down here from that previous base, but the Ultra's just going to finish everything off. And this medevac's just like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm going home. And look at this, another set of forces coming in here, hoping to lead these guys back into the Widow Mines. And the Fungal is going to go down on this army. A nice bit of split here, and he's still got the Marines on the back to wipe out all these Lings. And Fungal goes off on there, and the Mutas will finish these off, but I'd love to get a Widow Mine hit off on the Mutas. The Mutas running away at the very, very last second. And there, the Widow Mines have been triggered off. So really, really nice job with the Overseer triggering all those Widow Mines. I don't actually know if a Zerg player can tell if the Widow Mine has been triggered or not. We will have to try and see that. Alright, so that's key number 2, to see what the Zerg player is seeing. And we will have to see if they know when a Widow Mine has been triggered off, because that is the question of the day, I feel like. It's just, yeah, very, very interesting. And here we go, nice scan. Pushing back the creep is a really, really good idea, actually, because this base love to take this base out, and these spines are not going to stand up to this force, but a counter there. He's got a decent amount of Marines, but the Ultras coming in. He's got to worry about these Ultras right now, otherwise they'll shred this army. Manages to cancel the hatchery, but the rest of the army will go down, taking one Ultra with it. He might get the other Ultra, but the Ultra backing out. Marauder's chasing it, and it transfused, like 3 or 4 transfuses on the Ultralisk. Does save it, and look who's moved in right next door. It is going to be another base from the STC. Talk about talk about unruly neighbors, man. These guys just going absolutely nuts on each other, trying to repair it, and reinforcing units coming in. But we do have Broodlords for Jaedong coming out, so he's just going for the entire spectrum of Zerg units right now. He's trying to make it happen, and he's doing a really, really nice job, because unfortunately Marines aren't that good against Broodlords. They just don't have the range, and Marauders cannot hit Broodlords at all. So these Broodlords completely unmolested. And yeah, STC is going to... Look at this, man. Viking's already there. I was about to say he's got to get something to do with the Broodlords, but he is 10 steps ahead of me. And maybe half a step ahead of Jaedong, getting those Vikings out. Managing to save that base. Those workers just... Oh, man. Talk about home fixing up, where they do that 30-minute thing where you got to fix up the home in the fastest time possible. Oh man, that would make that would be hilarious. But yes, moving on a little bit, it's coming down to this bottom side, and what the freaking hell are these guys doing? Long distance mining. I feel like STC has just forgotten about them, but once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bases, and he's mining off 3 of them. Meanwhile, Jaedong, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he's mining off 3 of them. So even in this case. He's actually got a 7th base up there, but that guy's not really doing too much. We have a look at the income. STC has actually been hit quite hard, but yeah, the mule's definitely going to be making up for that for now. So STC will be able to keep trucking. He is a little bit behind on the army supply. He's been going into a massive amount of Vikings, but I feel like Jaedong will just, you know what, as soon as he sees the next attack with with all those Vikings, he's just going to switch over to something else. He's going to switch back to mass baneling, perhaps mutas. Mutas would be a great choice, because of course mutas just own Vikings all over the place. And yeah, going to be really, really interesting. He needs to get the Vikings down here though, because Jaedong is going in for another attack. He's got the high ground. These guys having a great job at attacking the workers, but the Broodlings do attack the planetary instead of the workers. So great job, these guys going in here, trying to have an attack, but the fungal growth is going to keep these guys locked down. And taking down those Broodlords, not going to happen. Meanwhile, a group of pure Marines coming down, and they've got an excellent opportunity to take this base down. I don't think Jaedong has anything close enough to try and hold that off. Meanwhile, STC pushing in, actually going through the Broodlord pack to attack this base. That didn't really happen, but he's going to try and hold this off. I don't know if he can get the reinforcements out to hold it off, though. He really needs these Vikings to start doing something, but infested Terrans hitting the Vikings quite hard, and the Corrupt is going to try and finish them off. He does have slightly more Vikings, 2 more reinforcements coming in, and yeah, he's going to have to see, but with just Lings and Broodlords attacking there, this base is going to go down. Meanwhile, these forces being relatively unmolested, and here goes another base down, but there's no mining at this base, so there's not really any point in destroying it. Meanwhile, STC just going to be pulling back, and we're starting to get to the point where people are just running out of bases. These bases are covered, but I feel like STC could take them out and build over there with not a huge amount of problems, because he's definitely got this area quite covered, and given that this base just died, yeah, Jaedong is going to be concentrating on keeping this base alive, so I feel like STC could expand over there and could definitely make it work. But this is going to be a bit dicey, because Jaedong is definitely poised to go at this area, although he's sending out a bunch of Lings over there. He cannot turn a blind eye to all this hocus pocus going over in this top corner anymore. He's just going to shut down this illegal mining operation, and STC, I don't know what he can do. There's no planetary up here, it's just an orbital. I feel like he is all of these guys are going to die. The reinforcements are going to show up too late to save these guys, and it is just going to be a slaughter. So there we go, and the income just getting further and further behind for the STC. Now it's not super, oh maybe it is super favoring Jaedong, because yeah, I mean, he really needs this base. He really needs this base. Right now, Jaedong has this base. This is his main mining base, the only real one he's got. This one sort of counts as a mining base, not really, so STC desperately needs this base. And he needs to be fully mining off it at all times to get the income that he needs. You can see now he was at 360 before. He's back up to 1,000, so that is what he's getting off that base. And without that income, he'd be completely screwed. But he really wants to take this base out, and it's going to be quite hard, because Jaedong has this very, very scary force, and so far STC hasn't been able to put a dent in it yet. The Marines not doing very well, but the Vikings coming in, and the problem is infested Terrans and Fungals, because you lock these guys down with Fungals, infested Terrans finish them off, and goodbye Viking swarms. So very, very scary, and the Broodlords need to be taken care of. They absolutely need to be taken care of, but Jaedong may have found the force that he really needs to take care of these guys. I don't know what STC could possibly do against this. Maybe Marauders to sort of stim in there, take out the infestors, but of course, here we go, looking to see some Fungals, and there we go, the Fungals. Are we going to see the infested Terrans? Not quite. So these guys having to back off, man. They are in full retreat mode into the back of their base. Another Fungal going down, but not getting all of the Vikings. These Vikings are so clumped up, though. And here we go, another Fungal. Not going to waste the infested Terrans, just going to kill them with Fungals. And STC is doing so good, but he is, at the same time, he is so close to defeat. He needs to get the Vikings out of there. There's no more air units, and he is so close to losing these guys. And get them out of there. There's nothing else to attack, and another Fungal will kill your entire swarm. He's landing them down. He doesn't have anything else to attack the ground units, and just like that, his Vikings swarm is just completely knocked out. Bunch of guys going down there, but they get knocked out. And STC has managed to wipe out the main army of Jaedong, but he's got nothing left to capitalize on this base. And just a bunch of Lings coming in here will be able to see off these remaining Vikings. They're just got no chance at all. I mean, right now, STC rules the sky, but Jaedong rules the ground. And these Marines might actually be what it takes to finish this off, because all the Lings are going to go down. Nice Widow Mine hit, and just a few Marines left over, and going to be trying to save the medevacs, because of course he needs the medevacs. And here we go. They're actually going to be seeing them off, but some nice healing. Whoever the Corrupt is going after the medevacs, and he desperately needs every single medevac and every single Marine right now, and choosing to sacrifice the medevacs in order to get those ground forces down. And here goes the base, and Jaedong gives the GG, man. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful attack right there. In fact, I take that back. It wasn't a beautiful attack. It was ugly, and it was bitter, and it was completely just absolutely demolishing both armies at the same time. The STC managed to win that battle, but it was by the skin of his teeth, and he basically had to throw all of his forces into the meat grinder in order to win that battle. But he did win that battle by the skin of his teeth, and all it came down to was 6 or 7 Marines. And that's all he needed, because Jaedong was just completely out of money and he just had nothing. So, I mean, if STC hadn't been able to secure that base, almost certainly he would have been out of the game. But he did, and he just did the suicide push in here, and yeah, just completely owned it. And I mean, Jaedong really didn't have a choice at that point. He invested so heavily into Broodlords and Infestors, and those guys are very, very slow. So he could not hope to defend this base and attack that base at the same time. He just couldn't do it. It would have taken too long. The Broodlords would have gone across the map. They would have got hit by this medevac or this widow mine, and STC would be like, alright, sweet, let's go in, let's snipe this base and then get out of there. Meanwhile, lift up the command center, move these guys away, and by the time that Jaedong gets there, he can have his forces pinning him back in there or flanking him or whatever, because the Terran army is just so much faster than Broodlords and Infestors. So really, really nice job there. And I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, STC, he could have pulled out there, regrouped, but he went in all the way. He went right to the very edge. Let's go back and actually have a look at this. I just want to show you what it really means to go right to the very edge, because I mean, he absolutely demolished his own army to get this win. Look at all these Vikings. He could have saved them quite easily here. He could have pulled back. He's in a great position right now to pull back, but instead he went for the absolute finish. He got down in there. He committed every single unit he had to finishing these guys off, and it took every single unit he had to finish these guys off. Look how close it was, and he just managed to do it, man. He just barely managed to do it. Look at these Vikings taking out the Infestors. Really, really great job. They got no energy at all. This stream of Lings coming in, and the Vikings were instrumental at taking out all of these Lings. So without those Vikings landing, Jaedong would have just held this off. And yeah, so just so close, so really, really close. But in the end, STC did have the victory right there. It was by the barest of margins, and yeah, I gotta say, man, winning a 40-minute game by the barest of margins, definitely not something you see every day. But you can see all the workers he lost here is down to 9 over 23, and 23 is still a stupidly low amount, but when it's compared to 9, it might as well be 1,000,000. I mean, for all the income you're going to be getting. So, but yeah, there we go. 0 workers now. Oh, 2. Where are the 2? I have no idea where these 2 workers are. There we go. Still one mining there, and this guy is just he's still mining over there. So there's actually 1 still on the expansion, man. That's crazy. But yeah, congratulations to the STC for a very, very hard-won game, and right down to the wire. But both players just fantastic job. Jaedong going through pretty much every type of unit he can think of, and the STC just sticking to his Triple M, getting a few tweaks here and there, Widow Mines and Vikings, but overall his core Triple M just showing that it works against so many different combinations of Zerg. And yeah, just an awesome, awesome battle. So thank you very, very much for watching this game. It's completely epic and one of the best Daily Masters I think we've cast so far. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching this. I will catch you guys tomorrow for another Daily Masters. And yeah, it's been Hairy Muppet. I hope you enjoyed this game.